Before the sun clears the horizon, Amboseli is already awake. The air is thin with dust. A low wind moves through the grass, carrying the quiet sounds of a landscape that has learned to endure footsteps, distant calls, the slow rhythm of life unfolding without urgency. Somewhere in that expanse, for decades, there was always a figure you could wait for, not easy to find, never in a hurry, but unmistakable when he appeared. Craige. He did not announce himself. There was no sudden movement, no disruption, just a gradual emergence, out of heat, out of distance, until his full shape came into view. Massive, worn, certain. His tusks were the first thing most people noticed.
I didn't know about Craige personally. Like many people, I only came to understand his story after he was gone. But the more I read about him, the more I realized that he wasn't just an elephant in the wild. He had a name, a history, and a presence that many people recognized. And I think that's what stays with me. Because it's easy to talk about wildlife in numbers, population statistics, or the conservation report, but Craige was not a number. He was one of the few that people could point and say he existed and he mattered, but now he's gone. Maybe what stories like this do is remind us to pay attention, not only when something is lost, but also when it's still here with us.
His tusks were the first thing most people noticed. Long, curved downward, heavy enough to almost meet the earth. They were not just features, they were time made visible. Year after year, they had grown with him, marking survival in a place where survival is never guaranteed. Craige moved slowly, but not weakly. Each step was deliberate, placed with a kind of awareness that comes from knowing the land too well to rush through it. He followed paths older than fences, older than roads, routes remembered not in thought, but in instinct. There were others, of course, herds that passed through, calves that stumbled forward, younger bulls testing their strength. But Craige belonged to a different scale of time. He had lived long enough to outlast many things. Seasons of drought, shifts in territory, the quiet disappearance of others like him. Elephants with tusks that once defined the horizon had become fewer, their absence noticeable in ways that statistics cannot fully explain. People came to see him. They waited in vehicles, engines off, watching the distance, sometimes for hours, sometimes for nothing. And then, if the timing was right, he would appear, crossing slowly, unconcerned, as if the act of being seen had nothing to do with him. There was no performance in it, no awareness of importance, just presence. In his later years, that presence began to change. Not suddenly, not dramatically, but enough. His pace slowed further. His body carried weight differently. Feeding took longer. Rest came more often. The signs were there, but they did not announce an ending. They simply accumulated, quietly, as they do in all living things. On January 3rd, 2026, Craige did not get up. There was no struggle that marked the moment. No violence, no interruption. Only stillness. He was 54 years old. For an elephant like him, a super tusker, carrying the burden and advantage of size, that kind of ending is rare. He died where he had lived, within the same landscape that had shaped him. Amboseli did not stop. The wind moved as it always does. Other elephants passed through the same spaces. The light rose and fell without hesitation. But something had shifted, not in a way you could measure immediately, more like an absence that reveals itself slowly, over days, over weeks, when a familiar outline no longer appears where it once did. Craige is gone. What remains is a space he occupied. And the question that follows is not new, but it feels heavier now. What does it mean to witness the loss of something, while there is still time to decide what comes next?